Okay, so for unit 8B.6, okay, for 8B.6, we are going to be dealing with and going to apply the 3 properties of logs. Okay, so we're going to apply and deal with the 3 properties of logs. Can anyone tell me what are logs? Logs are another way of writing what?
Logarithm.
Okay, not logarithms, but what are logs? Logs are another way of writing what?
Equations.
Not equations.
Log problems. Logisticals.
X's? Variables?
Not variables, not x's.
Has to do with something with logs.
Logs are exponents, exactly. So AJ was right, exponential equations, okay? I want you to remember that logs, hey, listen please. Logs are exponents. Okay, always keep that in mind. Logs are really just another way of writing exponents. Therefore, so the rules for logs are the same as those for exponents. Okay, logs are exponents, so the rules for logs are the same as those for exponents. Okay, so just keep that in mind. What I want you to try to remember, or let's recall, what happens when we have x to the a multiplied by x to the b? How do we combine those together? That would become x to the what? No, not exactly. A plus b. Okay? So key thing here I want you to remember is that multiplication is synonymous with or goes with addition. Okay? Multiplication and addition are kind of linked to each other. Okay, so the first rule that I'm going to show you is something called the product rule. Okay, what does product mean in math?
Multiply.
Product means multiply, okay? So that's why it's called the product rule, because it's going to be dealing with multiplication. Okay, so the product rule. The product rule says that log base b of m plus log base b of n is equal to log base b of m times n. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with condensing and expanding log equations today. Okay, so an addition turns into a multiplication problem, essentially. Okay, so anytime you have an addition, it is going to be condensed to be a multiplication problem. Okay, that is going to look something like, give me an example of that. Just a second. Okay, that's going to look something like this. If I ask you to condense log base 6 of 3 plus log base 6 of x. If I asked you to condense log base 6 of 3 plus log base 6 of x. That can be condensed or put in one log by rewriting the log base. By the way, the log base will always be exactly the same. Okay, you can't do this if it's like log base 5 of something and log base 6 of something. They have to be the exact same base. And all of your problems will be that way. I'm not going to throw any trick ones that you wouldn't be able to do. Log base 6 of 3 multiplied by x is just 3x. Okay? If it was 2 numbers, you would actually multiply them together. That is your answer here. Okay?
So the bases will always be the same?
The bases will always be the same. Yes. Okay, we cannot do this if the bases are not the same. Okay, next thing I want you to remember, so that was the product rule. Okay, next thing I want you to think about, like you to recall, what would happen if you had x to the a over x to the b? X to the a divided by x to the b. How would you simplify that if we were just dealing with exponents?
Take out the x's.
No. What are you really doing with the exponents? Subtracting them. So this would become x to the a minus b. Okay, so key here is that division goes along with what? Division goes along with subtraction. Okay, division goes along with subtraction. So if I'm going to be talking about division, what do you think my rule is called? What's the mathematical word for division? Quotient, exactly. Okay, this is the quotient rule. Okay, and the quotient rule tells you that log base b of m minus log base b of n is equal to log base b of m divided by n. Okay, so again, subtraction goes along with division. So addition goes with multiplication, subtraction goes along with division. Okay, any questions so far? So this is going to look something like this. If I give you, for example, number 2, and again, I'm asking you to condense this. Okay, for example, number 2, how about log 17 minus log 13? Log 17 minus log 13. Remember, I said that subtraction turns into division, so it's still the same log base. What is the base on these? 10. A 10. Do I have to write the 10? No. If you want to, that's fine, but it's not necessary. So this becomes log of 17 over 13. Now, if you could reduce that, you would. This one is not able to be reduced, so that is your answer. Okay, so we're just condensing things to start with. Condensing just means make it so there's only one log attached to it. Okay, questions so far? Okay, the last rule is something called the power rule. Okay, and the power rule says that log base b of m to the p power is equal to p multiplied by log base b of m. So log base b of m to the p power, thank you, equals p multiplied by log base b of m. Now, what this is basically doing is I want you to think of this, I want you to think of the power kind of like a dog. Okay, if you're a responsible dog owner, what do you do with your dog?
Feed it.
You feed it. You also do what?
Bathe it.
You take it for a walk, okay? If you're taking your dog on a walk, as a responsible dog owner, what do you do when you're taking your dog on a walk? You have it on a leash, okay? Your power is on a leash, okay? You need to have the power on a leash. The leash only extends so far. It only goes to right in front of the log, okay? So remember, when you're walking your dog, keep it on its leash. It can only go so far, okay? Kind of like your leash is not from here, you know, for a mile. Okay, so this log, the power can only go to the front of the log. Okay, you're going to see why that's important in just a little bit. Okay, but remember, that leash only goes to the front of the log. So this is going to look something like, for number 3, if I gave you log base 3 of y to the 4th. Log base 3 of y to the 4th power. If I walk my power up front, walk my dog, it goes to the front, and this would become 4 log base 3 of y. Technically, this 4 is attached by multiplication. Okay, technically that 4 is attached by multiplication. That is your answer. Okay, so the first part of what we're going to do today, your instructions are going to tell you to condense the following. Okay, condensing is usually a little bit easier, but we will get to expanding in just a minute. Okay, so condense the following. So condense basically means make it so that there's only one log attached in the problem. So if I give you log base 3 of 5 minus log base 3 of 20. Log base 3 of 5 minus log base 3 of 20. Which rule would I use for this? The power rule, the quotient rule, or the product rule? Subtract goes with what? Division. So what is that called? That's the quotient rule, okay? All your rules are posted up on the board as well. Okay, I made you a poster just in case. So, subtract becomes divide. So, we're going to make it into 1 log base 3. And then 5, this always comes first, over 20. This one can be reduced, so 5 over 20 reduces to log base 3 of 1/4. And that is your answer. Okay, that's your answer. So we're just rewriting this, condensing it, so there's only 1 log in your answer. Okay, whenever you're condensing things, there should definitely only be 1 log written in your answer. Okay, let's try another one. I want you to condense natural log 6, so ln 6, plus natural log 4, plus 2 natural log x. Natural log 6 plus natural log 4 plus 2 natural log x. Now, you need to know that when condensing, okay, and this only happens for condensing, when you're condensing, you want to move exponents first. Okay, so if there's any exponents that need to be moved, those have to happen first before we can start adding things together. Okay, so if I'm going to move this, remember it's on its leash, it can only move so far, it's going to move up to there. What can I do with these 2 pluses? Plus becomes what? Multiplication. So I can multiply those, but I can't do anything with this natural log until the exponent is on there. Okay, so natural log 6 times 4 plus natural log x squared. So natural log 6 times 4 plus natural log x squared. Now that I have x squared, what does this plus turn into? Multiplication, right? So we can actually multiply these together. So this becomes natural log 6 times 4 is 24 and an x squared. That is condensed. Okay, so all of this can be condensed into natural log 24 x squared. That's your answer that I'm looking for. Question so far? Okay, number 6. Okay, very similar. I want you to condense again. Log base 5 of 4 plus 1/3 log base 5 of x. Log base 5 of 4 plus 1/3 log base 5 of x. So what do I want to do first? Do I want to do the addition first or the power rule first? The power rule. Okay, so let's take this, make it a power. So log base 5 of 4 plus log base 5 of x to the 1/3 power. Then how would I combine these? If I'm going to condense these into 1, what rule do I have to use? Quotient, product, or power? Product. So put those together, that becomes log base 5 of 4x to the 1/3. Now that could also be written as log base 5 of, is there a different way to write x to the 1/3? Cube root of x. Okay, so the 1/3 power is the same thing as writing the cube root of x. Okay, those are kind of synonymous with one another. Either way is correct. So make sure you understand that. Same thing as 1/2 power, it's the same thing as writing a square root. Okay, again, I want you to condense. Okay, condense log base 4, or excuse me, 5 log base 4 of 2 plus 7 log base 4 of x plus 4 log base 4 of y. So 5 log base 4 of 2 plus 7 log base 4 of x plus 4 log base 4 of y. So which rule do I want to use first? Do I want to use the product rule for these additions, or do I want to use the exponent rule, the power rule? The power rule, right. So we're going to make all of these have exponents. Okay, this is why I say you have to keep your exponent on its leash. Okay, this exponent can't go way over here. It doesn't belong with the y, it only belongs with this 2. So just be careful when you're dealing with those. Okay, so log base 4 of 2 to the 5th power plus log base 4 of x to the 7th plus log base 4 of y to the 4th. Then I can combine all these. These are all additions, so they're going to turn into multiplication. So log base 4 of, is there a different way to write 2 to the 5th? What's a simplified way to write 2 to the 5th? What is 2 to the 5th? 32. So log base 4 of 32, x to the 7th, y to the 4th. So log base 4, 32, x to the 7th, y to the 4th. Anyone have questions so far? Okay, so that's condensing. The last part of what we're going to do on notes today is going to ask you to expand the following. Okay, expand the following. So that means we're going to expand it out, make it as big as possible, basically. Okay, so for example number 8, I would like you to expand log 2x to the 5th. Expand log 2x to the 5th. Now, when we were condensing, the first thing you wanted to do was deal with exponents, okay? When we are expanding, okay, when you are expanding, do exponents last. Okay, we want to use the power rule last. So that means you do not want to take this 5 and put it in front just yet. Okay, first thing I want to do is break up the multiplication. So how could I break up that multiplication? The product rule says multiplication becomes what? Addition, right? So log 2 plus every part that you break up has to have its own log part. Okay, so you cannot say log 2 plus x to the 5th. Okay, it's log 2 plus log x to the 5th. Okay, so every single part has to have its own log portion. Then I can take this x to the 5th, it walks up front. Now keep in mind it only walks to its log. It does not go all the way to the front of all of the logs. Okay, it's only belonging to just the log x. So if you rewrite that, that becomes log of 2 plus 5 log x. That is fully expanded. Okay, technically what is the base here?
10.
Base 10. Okay, so you don't have to write it in there, but they did have the same base. Questions? Almost done. 2 more. How about expand natural log 7x squared over y cubed. Expand natural log 7x squared divided by y cubed. Keep in mind we want to work on the exponents last. So what's the first thing I'm going to work on here? I'm going to use the power rule, the quotient rule, or the product rule. Quotient, right? Division becomes subtraction. So natural log 7x squared minus natural log y cubed. The natural log part has to go with every single part. Okay, you can't just put 1 and then make them subtraction in between. From here, how can I break up the 7 and the x? Are these attached by add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Multiply. So multiply breaks into what? Addition. So natural log 7 plus natural log x squared minus natural log y cubed. And then once you have everything unpacked, then we can take out these exponents. So the exponents go to only the front of whatever it's attached to. So not the whole thing, but only in front of the log that it's attached to. So natural log 7 plus 2 natural log x minus 3 natural log y. Natural log 7 plus 2 natural log x minus 3 natural log y. Okay, last one. Then I'll give you guys some time to work. Last one. I want you to expand, log base 3 of root 9x. Log base 3 of root 9x. Condensing is usually a lot easier than expanding. So expanding, you have to kind of go backwards. Okay? And expanding, each part that has a log can only have one letter or one number next to it. So here, what's another way to write root 9x?
9x 1/2.
This is written as log base 3 of, say it again?
9x to the 1/2.
9x to the 1/2. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
No. Okay? That is not correct because technically, does the 1/2 just belong to the x? No, it needs to be in parentheses. Okay, it has to belong to both of them. From there, you can rewrite this as log base 3 of 9 to the 1/2, x to the 1/2. So I kind of want to distribute it to both. Then what would I do? Separate them. So this is the product rule. So the product, so multiplication becomes what? Addition. So log base 3 of 9 to the 1/2 plus log base 3 of x to the 1/2. Make sure you put a log in front of every single part. Okay, you can't just separate them with one log in front. And then finally, take these 1/2s, make them numbers in the front. So 1/2 log base 3 of 9 plus 1/2 log base 3 of x. Okay, that is fully expanded. Okay, homework for this is going to be on page 510 in your book. You are doing numbers 15 through 42. Okay, I'm going to give you a bunch of time right now, hopefully, to get started on this.